6.0 reconvene open session, procedural business, 5:30 p.m. 6.1 call to order. The Board of Trustees are hereby reconvening open session at 5:37 p.m. 6.2 roll call. Trustees to identify themselves by first and last name to formally establish quorum. Dr. Natalie Lindeman, Trustee Area 4.
Dr. Bill Mellinger, Trustee Area 1.
Dana Ridland, Trustee Area 2.
Cindy Gardner, Trustee Area 3.
Courtney Zarate, Trustee Area 5, Running Springs, Arrowhead Lake, Green Valley Lake.
All trustees are present, so we do have a quorum. 6.3 Pledge of Allegiance led by Zachary Lawrence.
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Zach. 7.0 closed session report. 7.1 announcement of reportable actions taken during closed session. The board approved student expulsion, education code 48912, number 13-21-22. The vote was 5-0 and unanimous. 8.0 public testimony. 8.1 public comment period for items listed on this agenda and non-agenda items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the governing board. The public comment period is administered by state law and is the point in the meeting set aside for members of the public to share their opinions with the board. Open meeting laws do not permit the board to engage in dialogue or answer questions. Protocols for speakers. Any person who wishes to address the governing board on closed session agenda items must complete a green speakers form and submit it to the executive secretary to the superintendent before the meeting is called to order. Individual speakers are allowed 3 minutes to address the board on each agenda item. The board limits the total time for public input on each item to 20 minutes. Speakers who have complaints against board members or staff are encouraged to seek resolution to these complaints by using the Rim of the World Unified School District written complaint procedure rather than orally addressing them at a meeting. The board will not respond to such complaints until the applicable complaint procedure BP-AR 1312.1 has been followed and has reached the board level. Where a complaint concerns a district employee identifiable by name, position, or other facts, the board cannot respond until proper written notice has been given to the employee pursuant to Government Code Section 54957. Decorum. The governing board is interested in the ideas and opinions of all stakeholders and endeavors to incorporate community views into its deliberations and decisions. At the same time, it must be able to conduct its business in an organized and efficient manner, free from material disruption. Therefore, in accordance with Board Bylaw 9323 and Government Code Section 54957.9, audience members may not disrupt, disturb, or otherwise impede the orderly conduct of this meeting. Open meeting laws do not confer privilege or protection for expression beyond that otherwise provided by law. The public's understanding and cooperation are appreciated. 8.2 public comments. The first will be Mark Bear, representing teachers and students, topic negotiation, censorship, and attacks on staff. Mr. Bear?
Good evening, and thank you all for continuing to do what you do, and thank you to the guys who took my place as RTA president. Last week, our family had to deal with COVID, and I personally believe that being vaccinated and having a booster helped me get through it. So I encourage everyone to do that. At the beginning of the year, I also remember Mr. Powellson coming over to me talking about how he wanted to retire this year. And had several questions about it. Got sick and unfortunately didn't make it. So I have to walk by that room every day. So I think that. Another topic. I'd really encourage everybody to quickly settle salary and benefits with the RTA. Note that we've had 7% inflation this year. I've seen 15% in auto increases, 10 to 15% food increases. And just for the fun of it, I got to the Sturgis calculator and put in some of the numbers for the other districts for retiring. And, sometimes it's up to $1,000 more. So something to think of. I understand the budget pretty well. Is that my clock? Oh, okay. Oh, I better move that. I understand the budget pretty well, and I understand the funding, the inequities regarding funding. And I understand your responsibilities. However, at some point, you might have to say to the county and state, hey, we're going to compensate our employees. We're having a hard time finding people. What are you going to do to help us? And maybe going to 3% or whatever is needed. So since I'm down to 30 seconds, I'm going to skip the other topics, maybe to come sometime later. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Beck. Our next speaker is Ngozi Lether. She is representing Fructose, is that correct? Miss Fructose, and anonymous, and the topic is COVID.
Just make sure this is all right. So this first one is on behalf of Ms. Bobby Berteau, teacher at VOB. I teach at Valley of Enchantment Elementary, and as you will see from the burnt out graphics, I am one of the teachers who are expressing the exhaustion of teaching in these COVID times. Just this past week, we have seen the result of massive COVID-19 outbreak. Many of us appreciate the efforts made by our school, district office management, and RTA leaders to mitigate the spread of COVID at our schools by extending the MLK holiday weekend by 2 days, giving us a 5-day reset. However, the message was lost on others who did not understand the importance of this decision. And as we've seen firsthand, what happens when we have bus drivers out sick, we need our personnel to get our students back and forth to school. Teachers are needed at the school for our students as well. When teachers are sick, we need to substitute. The decision not to offer higher substitute daily pay to attract substitute teachers has made a negative impact on the spread of COVID-19 in our classrooms. Students have been split up when there is a teacher who is sick and no substitute is available. These students have subsequently spread the virus to other students and teachers in these split classrooms. Furthermore, because of the lack of substitutes, I personally have not been able to take care of my medical and dental health. Unlike other people, I cannot schedule time to leave my job and go to these appointments since I have students who need me or another qualified adult to supervise them. The idea of splitting classes with other teachers if no substitute is available was supposed to be a temporary solution. The result of this quick fix has been teachers and students being exposed to positive cases of COVID-19, and we need more substitute teachers now. All teachers are exhausted from the growing list of responsibilities, high student absenteeism, learning loss, intervention programs, and the added pressures of COVID-19 protocols. We have been given multiple public works assignments, up to 13 with due dates. With chronic student absenteeism, teachers cannot constantly reteach lessons. We need to move through our instructional plans for those students who are in class. Many students are reading at 3 to 4 grade levels below their current grade. Most teachers don't have the energy to work even more hours and to create and implement before or after school intervention programs. Teachers have been asked to police their classrooms for everything from phone usage, inappropriate tech, behavior issues, wearing masks, washing hands, social distancing. We are professionals and deserve to be paid as such. With our US inflation, as Mark said, is up over 7%, it is only reasonable to adjust salaries with a cost of living adjustment to at least offset these economic hardships. Most of us know that there's a Medicola, and we need to make sure that is implemented for the future of our districts. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Dr. Deborah Knowlton, representing South, topic student learning and achievement.
I attended the November school board meeting because on the agenda was an item entitled Student Achievement, Learning, and Achievement. The core purpose of the school system and of all the services provided by the educational program in the district. This goal includes teaching the students the skills they need to be successful adults and citizens, however they choose to define successful in their future lives and careers. So how are RIM students doing in learning the skills they need to achieve this goal? The principal of the intermediate school discussed various programs at the school, and the high school principal discussed the WASC accreditation report. But nothing was said about the actual student learning and achievement. So I looked at the California Department of Education website. At RIM's accountability report card for 2019, the last data available in which students were attending the schools full-time prior to COVID. The report card tells the public how well school districts students are meeting the standards that have been identified by educators and business people as necessary for future economic success and for an educated citizenry. Some of the findings included 84% of the students graduated after attending 4 years of high school, but only 60% of English learners accomplished this goal. In English language arts literacy, only 41% met or exceeded state standards. In math, only 23% met or exceeded state standards. In 11th grade, the last year the students are tested in the final product of the school district, 54% of the students met or exceeded the state standards in English language arts, and 13% met or exceeded state standards in math. In science, 27% of students met or exceeded the state standards. In looking at subgroups, English learners have the lowest percentage, 8% in meeting or exceeding state standards in English, 2.2% meeting or exceeding state standards in math, and 3% meeting or exceeding state standards in science. Bottom line to all these numbers is that most RIM students do not have the basic skills to read and critically analyze and evaluate information and data in English, math, science, or to effectively communicate in writing. And now you want to add such things as critical race theory, ethnic studies, social justice equity, and comprehensive sex education to the curriculum. The teachers in this district don't have time to teach these subjects because the students haven't met the standards for reading, writing, and math. The skills that give students access to the rest of the curriculum, computer information, analysis of healthcare options, evaluation of political information, and general success in life. Otherwise, the graduates are merely pawns to be manipulated by college professors, mainstream media analysts, purveyors of misinformation, and ultimately they will not understand why they are not achieving their personal goals later in life.
Thank you. And if you would like to stay there, you know, for the next speaker. So Dr. Moulton, representing South on student equity.
I'd like to comment on the Alpine Mountaineer interview with board member Mr. Mellinger regarding understanding student equity. The superintendent is for his defining equity as a process for reforming practices, policies, and procedures at the school and district levels to support academic opportunities, access, fairness, and inclusion, to ensure that every child has the resources, teachers, interventions, and supports they need to be successful. Achieving equity in education is an important goal for our school district. Board member Mr. Mellinger adds, equity is about making sure every student gets an equal opportunity to be successful. He poses the question, how are we going to provide an education to every individual that is equal? You can't because you forget about the variables of the individual students, their motivation, commitment, effort, and time. My question is, why isn't the district providing this access already? If you are already doing this, then why do you need to reform your practices, policies, and procedures? The article continues, to guide this work, a committee of students, alumni, staff members, and parents is being formed and will have a facilitator, school board member, Mr. Mellinger. How can new ideas come from this group? Wouldn't their ideas have already been implemented since they all come from the district? Where are the outsiders, business people, community members, people from other districts who can bring fresh, objective, outsider perspectives and new ideas to the district? Mr. Mellinger discussed the need to complete prerequisite courses in order to be prepared for higher level classes such as advanced placement. He comments that academic counselors are only in the high school. Why isn't there an academic counselor at the intermediate school? That is only one extra employee. In addition, all teachers, administrators, not just counselors, should be looking for talented students and moving them into more challenging courses. It helps to have honors classes prior to taking advanced placement courses, but it is not required. Any student who demonstrates the knowledge, interest, motivation, commitment can be successful in honors and/or advanced placement program at any time. Unlike Mr. Mellinger, you will notice that I have not even mentioned money. Equal educational opportunity has very little to do with money. It has to do with the skills and motivation of the administrators, teachers, and counselors. Mr. Mellinger ends the interview asking, how do we know that every student is getting an equal opportunity to excel? What kinds of tools do we need? As professionals, district personnel should already know these answers. If not, start looking to student achievement data from the California Department of Education, individual student course grades and transcripts, teacher recommendations for individual students, and how the master schedule is developed. Is it based on student parent requests and needs, or is it the same every year based on habit and tradition? Thank you.
Thank you. Eight point three, RTA and CSEA representatives, RTA. Hello again. So again, I'm up here to remind you how hard our staff is working to keep the district not going, not thriving, but limping. As we've seen this last week, our district comes to a halt when there's not enough staff to cover all the responsibilities to give our students the best education we can. But at the moment, many of our students are not getting what they need academically or social emotionally. And let me be honest, it's not healthy for anyone. The splitting of our classes and period subbing defeats the purpose of masking or social distancing because it just exposes the staff and other students to COVID. Having 40 or 50 students in a class doesn't promote academic excellence or addresses learning loss. They are bodies to be counted for ADA couch. And this is not fair to their overall benefit. That's the aspect of our job that makes me the most upset and angry, because RTA wants in-person learning. We want to teach our kids. We want to see our students. And this is just very upsetting. Some of our teachers appreciate the extra pay for period subbing or splitting the class to assist a colleague. But then you have to ask yourself, what drives the incentive? An employee feels like they have to take on the extra duty, take the extra pay, or do multiple jobs at once because they don't get paid a living wage to start. Some might have other motivations, but that's the recurring message I receive from my members on a daily basis. As you can see from our displays here, a lot of our teachers are burnt out. We feel that the amount of work that many of our members do, they feel like working for them isn't really worth it. Personally, I feel like I and our members do, and they aren't being listened to by our governing body, either or. You say you understand, you say you empathize,
You thank us for our dedication to our students and the district, but to many it feels hollow. If you truly believe in those statements, then give us COLA. We are privy to the news. We research. We know what's going on. We know that California has a surplus, and this is the second year our state has a major surplus. Our governor has set aside the money to improve education, to make sure that our students get what they need, and not to put in our district savings, but to go to the teachers, the counselors, the TOSAs, the classified staff that help support our students in every way that they can. Our district actually has state money because we're not fully staffed to dedicate our classified. So what's the hesitation? Other districts are doing it and going above and beyond COLA to attract quality staff, motivate their current staff, and to make their educational programs better. What about ours? What about rent? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any representative from CSEA? And they're not logged on, correct? Thank you. 9.0 governing board members, reports, and announcement. 9.1 governing board members. Cindy, would you like to begin?
So, I'm sorry. So, just want to say one thing in regards to something that was said. The ethnic studies is going to be a high school graduation requirement by the state of California. So that's not something that we can choose to teach or not teach. It's going to be a high school requirement. It's going to go through the process of any kind of curriculum, the regular process through Heather Dominguez leading the curriculum council or whatever, and going through that, piloting, developing, and then whatever materials are put for public review. So it's the normal course of how we adopt textbooks and materials and curriculum. So that it'll be a normal process. In regards to myself, I want to say that I was on a meeting like Mountain Council PTA and the PTAs and 5th District PTA, which is the next level, which has never visited our Mountain District ever, was part of that call. And I was really proud of the way that our units, each PTA represented their school and what they're doing to support their school, their students, and their staff, even during this time of COVID. So I want to say that even though it's been a struggle, just in many ways, at every single campus with staff shortages, with COVID, with everything that's going on, the PTAs are trying to their best to keep on plugging along, even though they also are struggling with all the facets of COVID and the challenges of trying to get enough volunteers to even put on programs. So I'm really proud of the way that our mountain was represented in that meeting. Sorry that I know I'm not sick. I have apparent sinuses. I want to say that I'm excited about the College and Career Hub, the center that Remote 101 is going to be coming. I have the paint. I'm going to start taping on Monday, so that's exciting. I think it's going to be a fabulous little center for intervention, for tutoring, and for AVID, and for all the functions of college and career advancement. So that I'm excited about that. I want to say that I received a call from the San Bernardino County School Boards Association's Executive Committee Nominating Committee, and I have been chosen to be legislative chair to ZENDAP. So I'm excited that I get to continue that work with both the Executive Committee and ZENDAP. We have ZENDAP has been meeting with legislators. We have been advocating for more money in the base, which I'll get to under the election report. So I just want to keep on task with advocating for more money in the base instead of the one-time restricted money that this governor's budget is filled with. I want to keep advocating for transportation COLA because our transportation does not have a COLA. I want to keep on advocating for more money in Prop 98 because again, even though we're seeing budget surplus, Prop 98 still is not funded at where the intended level it was supposed to be at. So I'm excited. I have signed up for the CSBA, California State Board Association, and the AXA, which is the administrators or organization, to go to coast. It'll be 3 days in Washington, D.C. to meet with our legislators, discussing federal issues related to our districts into California. It's a great opportunity. I'm really excited that it's back, that I get to do it again. It hasn't happened in a couple of years, just because it's exciting to meet with school boards across the country and realize that some of the same issues our district and our districts in California are facing, so is Texas, so is New Hampshire, so is Ohio. And so it's really great to have those conversations and to be on the same page en masse when you're meeting with legislators, because they're hearing the same message from school boards and superintendents all over the United States. And lastly, I will be attending Legislative Day up in Sacramento, which is in March. Coast to Coast is in April. So very excited about continuing the advocacy work and trying to, what I see is needing a course correction to have less one-time or 2 to 3 year restricted monies for specific intents and purposes, instead of putting it into the base where there's more flexibility for the school districts to do what is needed for their school district. Local control seems to be slipping away. I'd like to see it go back to what it was, where we have more flexibility. So those dollars need to go in the base. Thanks.
Thank you. Jordan, would you like to go next?
Keep my remarks on the shorter end this evening. I have received a number of emails, and I'm glad to have seen those. And I appreciate your perspective, your context that you provided to situations, and insights in general. Tomorrow, I will be attending, along with a lot of our other board members here, the Governor Newsom's proposed budget. It's a breakdown of Newsom's proposal, general proposal, and how it relates to public education, what it means for our district, and what might change between this January proposed budget and the May revise. We have seen under Newsom that his budgets, the January proposals tend not to line up with the May revise. So we'll talk about that. It's 3 hours. It's a webinar. It should be really fun and informative. I always like attending it every year, even though the last couple of years it's been virtual. But I invite anyone who's curious to learn more about the state's budgets, what's going on with school districts in our state, how many districts, especially ones like Rim, are severely underfunded, and what is being done from a legislative perspective to potentially address that. There's some really exciting things, like changing the concept that one student per day equates to a certain dollar amount, and changing it to average daily membership, which is more of an enrollment-based funding formula. It would mean a lot to our districts to see something like that happen. I don't know how likely it is, but it's being talked about for the first time ever. And that's really exciting to think about, and what those implications might mean, what it might mean for staffing, what it might mean for addressing more, social emotional learning, to see what it could do for mental health for our students. There's a lot of possibilities that are tied into a lot of proposals at the state level. It will be interesting to see how this legislative session shapes out. But my point, and what I'll bring it back to, is something that I bring up every board meeting, is we are all available. We're not, we are all here in our communities. for, especially, I know it's difficult during these times, but we can call. We can always have a phone call or a Zoom or a Google Meet. And when the farmer's market starts up again, I'll be there every weekend too. So you talk to me about school district stuff while you're doing your grocery shopping. But I'll leave it there. And again, the budget, I'm always really excited to talk about. So let's talk about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. Bill?
Thank you, Natalie. I also appreciate the emails that I've gotten. And I get to spend time at Allen Elementary School a couple of weeks a year, a couple of weeks a month, in the classrooms with some of the greatest future leaders that our world has to offer. I'm with the early X students, and they are running their own meetings there. And I want to thank the Rotarians that have already delivered dictionaries and thesauri to the elementary schools. And we're getting ready to do that at Valley of Enchantment. I want to just want to say, people say we don't listen, we don't hear, we don't understand. We listen, we hear, we understand. Isn't that why we just did what we did this last week or this week, trying to reduce days? Because we know everyone's exhausted. The problem, I'm going to say it again, is that the world is exhausted. The world is in conflict. COVID is everywhere. We do everything we can financially, like increase sub pay. That doesn't get any more subs because there aren't subs out there. And that's across not just this state, but across this country. So the challenges are affecting teachers in every single community, not just ours. So we do understand. That's the troubling piece of this, is that what is happening in schools is everywhere in this country. Administrators are exhausted, certified staff are exhausted, classified staff are exhausted, and many are getting sick, including students getting sick. And we're simply trying to deal with that. And I appreciate, and I really mean this, whether you hear it or not, I appreciate what every single one of you are doing. The extra miles that every one of you are doing. I joke with the principal of VOE, Bruce Hamilton, as he's our head custodian sometimes over there. But there's many other examples of people doing stuff that are going way beyond what any of us would hope or expect them to do. And that's from our leader, from the top, our superintendent, and everyone else. Incidentally, welcome, Heather. I know she's going to do that later, but so I appreciate you, appreciate all the hard work that you're doing. And frankly, I don't know that any amount of money is going to help us with the exhaustion that everyone's feeling, with the struggle that everyone's feeling. And I know, and Jordan usually reminds us of this, so I'll do it. 3 years down the road, we have a big chasm that we're about to hit. This district is underfunded. This district is not in a great financial position. We're not hiding money, keeping it for ourselves or some other resource. And there are challenges that go that, frankly, it's said in a meeting today where they were talking about the governor's budget, and change is going to happen. And there are things there that are not going to be for long term. They're momentary fixes. And we need to be taking care of our staff long term. And that's another challenge. What will happen down the road? And by the way, Jordan, you're right. One of the things they said today at today's meeting, that the average daily membership may actually cause us to lose funds rather than increase funds, which that was troubling to hear at the meeting today. So then I want to report on Equity and Social Justice Committee. We were supposed to meet on Wednesday. Tuesday. I'm really mixed that, aren't I? We were supposed to meet on Tuesday. However, since we decided that it was better for us not to be in school and try to take those 2 extra days, Social Justice, Equity and Social Justice Committee did not meet. So our first meeting of the Equity and Social Justice Committee committee will be in February so I have no further report on the committee because we didn't meet. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Jordana?
She's on mute.
Okay, I just unmuted myself. Hello. Hello, everybody. I wish I could be there in person, wish I could see everybody. Because I'm remote, I'm going to keep my comments short. First, I wish to apologize for me not being there in person. Had a family obligation that cropped up very quickly, taking me out of town, and I did everything I could to be able to be back up on the mountain, and I realized I wasn't going to get there in time. So I'm hearing everything that's being said. I'm listening intently. And again, I apologize. A few comments. Like I said, I'm going to keep this brief. One is I did learn, probably everybody else knows this already, but in case you don't, Highway 18 is tentatively going to be opening tomorrow, all 4 lanes. So for those of you who are wishing to get off the mountain or get on the mountain coming up the 18, that's phenomenal news. Great work by the contractors who have just done a really lovely job. So one of the things I heard Bill, everybody basically talking about the level of exhaustion we have in our community. And as Bill mentioned, that exhaustion is happening everywhere, not to mention having a problem with being shorthanded. I visited MPH, I guess it was earlier this week, and had a wonderful talk with Mrs. Whiteside. And one of the things that we discussed is how much COVID has taken its toll on everybody. And it reminded me of when my father had a couple of brain surgeries followed by a stroke, and being counseled by the nursing staff that the recovery process to treat it more as a marathon than as a sprint. And it brings to mind what we've experienced the past couple of years with COVID is I believe a number of us are sprinting, trying to put everything we can into everything, which is the nature of education. And I think that exhaustion is the result where we haven't had the ability to have a crystal ball to know how long this was going to be happening. And that exhaustion is definitely taking its toll. So I urge everybody to try to take care of yourselves. I know everybody around that I'm seeing at the wide open wood desks, and I'm sure everybody in the audience knows that we care, and everybody is working as hard as they can. And I also know that in the classroom on school campuses, it's heartbreaking for the adults caretaking for kids that they absolutely love, and they're feeling so incapable of doing the job that they wish to do. We're not tone deaf. We do hear. When I spent my time at MPH, I got a chance to chat with a number of teachers, friends of mine, and I am not living the struggle that you're living at this point. I could only imagine the day-to-day heartbreak that bus drivers are experiencing, staff is experiencing, and we wish that we had more solutions. I can say that with absolute certainty, but please do realize that you are being heard, and that there is a definite desire amongst all of us to do what we can to make our community, our children be, our students well taken care of, and for us to thrive. Let me see if there's anything else. I don't have anything else in my notes. I just wish everybody well, and I hope to see you in person. Actually, one thing to repeat what Jordan had said for all of us, if you do wish to meet with us, we're all available. I definitely, if anybody wishes to speak with me, please email or call or just reach out, and definitely we do want to hear what you have to say, and just thank you for all of your effort.
Thank you. I'll begin with something that people have mentioned already, is that we did get, I personally received a lot of contacts from teachers today, and I appreciate hearing those messages and would like to hear them throughout the year. There was an influx today, and I want to hear them to know, staff to know, everyone to know that we are available all throughout the year, and we're open to suggestions, to solutions, to feedback, to concerns, to positives, to support all throughout the year. And I really want to hear from you, and I thought it was a very positive thing to get those messages today. Speaking for myself, I want to give all staff what they deserve. And is this year are we more deserving of it because we worked harder? Yeah, absolutely. And I think that we need to do that with keeping the future of the district in mind too. And I think you can all respect that that's a very delicate balance that we have to assess and look at, and we don't take that lightly. We know how hard it has been for you, and the teacher messages today, but not only that, just seeing them in the store and their exhaustion level and all staff's exhaustion level, we are crawling. We're crawling at all levels through this district, and I appreciate those that keep crawling because there's no other option. Our students need us, our kids need us, our community needs us, and people do this because they're passionate about it, because they're passionate about educating our students and passionate about improving the future generations of the world. And that's what we're digging with right now. Like, that's all that we're working with. I understand and recognize that. So I will wrap up there, and again, please reach out all throughout the year. 9.2, Superintendent, Mrs. Murphy.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome our new Associate Superintendent, Heather Griggs. She comes to us from Rio Grande, and welcome aboard. She's been here 9 days, and she's done a lot of stuff in those 9 days and met a lot of folks, so we appreciate having you here. Welcome to Greg. It's a great place to be. I attended yesterday along with our CTA presidents, Superintendent Council for Ted Alejandre. There are 8 districts on that council, so that you know, and Rim is one of them. Right now they're working on a couple of things, which I think will be very interesting to help the county. So one of those things is a survey that's going to come out to our teachers regarding behaviors in the classrooms that they're experiencing and some special ed questions. So I think that survey will be great feedback for our county as they look forward to providing professional development and supports in our classrooms. So we appreciate that Ngazi and I attend that, and that our teachers are going to have a voice in those professional developments and answering the survey. I also look forward to a legislative trip to Sacramento that those 8 superintendents are taking with their 8 CTA presidents. So I look forward to fighting for the cause and legislative action with Ngazi. So more information to come on that. I know you missed the meeting yesterday, but more information to come on that. And we'll be traveling together to Sacramento, and I look forward to that time to make Bryn's needs known in Sacramento. Last Friday, thanks to Heather and our employees, 1,800 test kits were picked up by our parents for their students for testing for COVID. And on top of that, any employee that wanted a test kit was given one, either at their site or could pick them up as well. So very, very positive numbers. That is the highest we've had and offered from the state testing kits that were free. So very appreciative that took place, and the parents were super appreciative of having that opportunity. And they used them, and they did report them into the health, which they were supposed to. So that's good news. I'd like to thank the RTA negotiating team and our teachers for the calendar reset for wellness. I think that was needed. We were very creative in looking at those days and how we could use them to try to get people back on track to being healthy. I know I appreciated that as having COVID the last 2 weeks. So this is my first real day out of bed, and I feel like I'm doing okay. But I definitely know what it's like now and how important it is to take care of yourself. So I I just wanted to thank you for the gift of wellness. So other than that, that's my report for this evening.
Thank you, Mrs. Murphy. 9.3, student representative report, Zachary Lawrence, River World High School.
I too am just coming down from COVID. I'm negative, no symptoms wrong yet. I do now, even more than before, understand the importance of protecting not only ourselves, but others, both in school and at home, and even at the grocery store. And the importance of making sure that everyone, including ourselves, are happy and healthy as we, continue to try and navigate what's going on right now. So we are now ringing in the year of 2022 at the RIM schools. We're all very excited to be back after the long weekend. I know some students, really, and teachers as well, administrators, all really got to, take that time, reset, in a sense, relax and not have to worry about, everything that, we've been experiencing both at school and outside of school day after day, knowing that, health is on the line and safety, burnout, all of that is present. And, we're all just really excited to be back and to pick up right where we left off. So to kick off with the elementary schools, they are starting up their Great Kindness Challenge week next week. That is going to, all of these are occurring at all of the elementary schools. And they are continuing their Innovate ED to develop and implement the plan for academic focus at all of these school sites. And they are refining their cycle of inquiry process as well at all of the schools. We had a glow dance, which had a great turnout down here. I know a lot of the students, some of the students that I've spoken to they really enjoyed that. The LAE leadership training is happening right now for all staff, and maybe that picture cuts off there. But to help educate and to prepare staff for any and all students that could, potentially be in their classes, and that training did happen on January 12th. And LAE's Trimester 2 Community Service Project, they are collecting Play-Doh for local children's hospitals to donate to children who are currently in those hospitals. And they are on their way to meeting their goal of 1,000 containers of Play-Doh to donate. Next up is the MPH goals they have a lot of positive reinforcements and a lot of positive plans that they have in place. Their first goal is regarding instruction, student learning, and professional development. All of these students did take their STAR exams in ELA and math for the second time in December. And as you guys know, this really does allow administrators and teachers and the board to really gauge student progress and where students are at in their education compared to the California standards. And they are working on March 25th to contribute to students' honor placement as we look forward to the 2022-2023 school year, as well as the utilization of the paper app and paper website that is offered to all MPH, and I know as well to all of the RHS students. A great resource. I, as a student, find it very beneficial. I love getting to go on there, run a paper by someone, or help a math problem. It really helps, especially when there's all this craziness going on. Really, a way to kind of branch out for some more academic assistance. Their second goal is for school safety and PBIS. The digital statement form for discrete reporting of concerns is available in student bookmarks and is available to all students at MPH to report any kind of negative experience that they have at school to anonymously report bullying, anything if they see something, say something. It's a way that they can anonymously and discreetly report that to the MPH administration. And their line loop is, like I said, at our previous couple meetings, is at a record high for redemption. Lots of students are following the PBIS guidelines and earning their line loop for it. I know we did have Ms. Whiteside run the mile last semester. So students are really excited about that. That incentive process is really not only exciting for students, but it really helps the students to understand better the real world ramifications of them deciding to either abide or ignore respect, responsibility, and safety concerns. Third goal, number 3, last but not least, is their engagement and equity. Their next school site council meeting is going to be held next week on the 26th. And the first student school culture committee meeting will be held the day before on January 25th. Now for the Bryn High School update, Mr. Powell's ROP class, as well as our drama class and our leadership class, put together a wonderful skit that was shown to all students in their second period classes last week. And that was to reinforce the PBIS guidelines that are set here at Bryn as well. And the leadership students are heading to their annual leadership conference down at Universal Studios. That is going to be happening next Friday, the 28th. And this is the first time that those leadership students have got to go since the 2019-2020 school year. And I know that those students are really excited about that trip. It allows students to be able to collaborate, like you guys have said, you collaborate with other school boards across the state, across the nation. This allows the school leadership teams to do that as well. So they can collaborate with other students and bounce ideas off of each other for things that they could potentially implement here. Now for our athletics update, Haley Chapman was #1 in girls for her weight class in the whole state of California. She has signed to Colorado Mesa, and she will be attending there after graduation in the fall, as well as one of our star football players, Nate Mayer. He has committed to Fresno State. He was fielding lots of offers and has made his decision. And I know the administration, myself, and the students at Bryn wish both of them great luck in their collegiate endeavors as well as their athletic. We do have a student listening tour that will happen next week with Dr. Judy White. Students will be nominated by their teachers to go in and communicate with Dr. White and sit down to have a conversation with her about their experiences at Bryn to better gauge the equity and just the overall environment here at the school. And teachers are planning ahead. As at the meeting before last, we did talk about our WASP reports. The teacher time that they have to sit down with each other, bounce ideas off of each other, and line up these lesson plans are vital for a lot of the teachers. And like what we're seeing now, they don't often have as much time to sit down and carve out these lesson plans. So teachers will be starting to sit down with their whole department and bounce ideas off of each other for lesson plans to be able to plan ahead and better provide all of the content that the students should be getting, no matter how difficult the teacher's schedule is or the student's schedule. So all of the students will be getting an overall fuller and better experience in the classroom. For Mountain High School, they have began their 4th grading period, and that one will end on February 17th. And they have began a new PLC cycle where the staff will be, as a whole, will be mentoring the students to try and make that extra connection for those students. Their 5th student graduated last Thursday, one of my personal friends. She was very excited to graduate, and I know the Mr. Nygren and the teachers at Mountain, including myself, are all really proud of her achievements and wish her the best of luck outside of school. And Kathy Farley, a local resident, came and delivered a speech to the Mountain students last week that was well received and has been printed in this week's Alpine Mountaineer. The Mountain High School hosted a holiday activity with their Home Choice Little Buddies in kindergarten through third grade on campus with Mrs. Lewis's class right before we all went on to winter break. And the younger students, they really enjoyed having the high schoolers come and collaborate with them and teach them, read to them all of the things that they do together. It really, shows the model citizens that, these younger students could grow to. It really provides a good impact on them. They're working with a consultant as well who works mainly with continuation schools to bring about changes, and that hopefully we will see implemented in the next couple of years at Mountain. And they've also surveyed students who are in favor or against this new plan, and it was met with overwhelming appreciation and overwhelming excitement by the students. And many of the Mountain students also made Christmas cards for the local senior center, and that will help fulfill their volunteer hours that they can add to their senior portfolios towards their graduation. And lastly, for the schools, we have the Virtual Academy. There was some turnover towards the end of the semester. 6 students were lost in the TK through 6th grade program, but those spots were filled from the wait list, as well as 3 students from 9th through 12th grade whose spots were also filled, as well as 5 students who will be returning to in-person instruction for the remainder of the semester. And of course, with the new independent study laws, students who are not performing satisfactory in the virtual academy will be returning to in-person instruction, and that applies to the 7th through 12th grade levels. And they have hired 3 special education teachers for the Virtual Academy who will be modifying assignments to help promote the success of the students at the Virtual Academy. And they will be having a mascot contest this month so that students and parents in the community will be able to have a say in what the mascot is for the Virtual Academy.
10.0 reports and presentations, finance and facilities, 10.1, 2020 and 2021 finance audit report includes Measure W audit and Bailey L. This will be virtual.
Hi, everybody. Am I up? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
I might have missed the very beginning. I'm assuming that you had introduced me to present the audit.
Yes, we did.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate you all accommodating and allowing me to Zoom in today. I'm feeling better today than I had been for the last week, and still pending results of a test. So thought it was just safer to do this. So I appreciate the accommodation. As you all know, it's just quite the times right now. I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to, excuse me, go over the audit report. Hopefully everybody can see this, the screen right now.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I need to make it a little bigger. So I'm going to go ahead and just take a few minutes of your time to go over the results of the audit for June 30, 2021. As always, I'm happy to take any questions either during, so stop me if you have a question, or if you want to just hold questions, I can take any questions at the end as well. So as I mentioned, this audit is for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2021. Why do we even perform an audit? What are we here for? Our goal is to provide you with some what we call reasonable assurance about the financial statements and whether they are materially stated based on our audit. So we go through a variety of testing. We do some risk assessment. This isn't absolute assurance. We refer to it as reasonable assurance. And we provide you, excuse me, this opinion on the financial statements. The highest level of assurance we can provide in an audit is considered an unmodified opinion. That would be considered a clean report. And the result of an unmodified opinion is that we do believe the financial statements are materially stated based on our audit. So the opinion that is in front of you tonight is an unmodified opinion. So it is a clean report on your financial statements. In addition to the opinion on the financial statements, watch me scroll right past 100 pages and we're going to get right to the good stuff. In addition to the opinion on the financial statements, we do provide you with 3 other reports. I'm scrolling past them now, but I'm going to go to a page that summarizes all of these in one concise document. Those 3 additional reports that we provide you are an internal control report over the financial reporting. The purpose of that report is if during the course of our audit, we identify what we would consider to be significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in the internal control structure over the financial reporting, we'd be required to report them to you. So it's not an opinion on the internal controls, but it is designed as a communication tool when we do find such deficiencies. So we are happy to report no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in your financial reporting. In addition to the financial reporting, we have 2 compliance related reports that we provide you. The first is on federal programs. And obviously you all know that there's been a lot of federal money just flowing through from the federal government to the state. And as you can see about midway down the page here, we are showing that a lot of that new federal money that did come in this year has been subject to audit. So you've had your ESSER and your GEAR and your CRF monies. So all of those programs did require us to look at the expenditures for compliance. So we are happy to report that that was a clean report on compliance. So unmodified opinion. And again, no internal control deficiencies over that financial reporting on your compliance and federal programs. So kudos to the district for getting through that year. Then the last is our state program, which we have a variety of programs that we are required to audit under the state program. And so distance learning was the most notable. And again, an unmodified report on your state compliance programs. So it's been a big year for everybody. It's nice to be able to be here, to be able to provide clean reports on all the changes that had gone on through the year. And so if there are any specific questions now, I think that's probably really the gist of everything I wanted to cover, and I'm happy to take any specific questions or address any pages.
Hi, it's Jenny. I just wanted to let everyone know because the copies of the audit report are on the website under the business tab. So you can find them there for the audience members who may want to take a peek and have something.
So in our board docs, we have the final governance letter. Within that letter, it shows that the uncorrected and corrected misstatements, it's the student body activity funds. It was $14,273. It's on page 3 of that one. Is that, I know we always have.
Let me explain that one a little bit. That,
Yes.
this year there was a new reporting requirement. We call it GASB 84, and we actually do refer to it in this letter as well. Couple of spots where we do refer to the letter. There we go. Here in the significant accounting policy changes, you'll see that we talk about GASB 84 being a new accounting standard. What that essentially did was change the way in which we were previously presenting your associated student body funds. And they now are being reported in a similar fashion as all your other governmental funds. And so, similar to how you would show your cafeteria fund or your general fund within the financial statements, your ASB funds are now presented in that same fashion. And this letter, the reason we had an adjustment, that was really just related to as the district was bringing all that activity into Fund 8. I think there were just some timing differences with some of the deposits and the financial records being recorded. And so we didn't believe that that amount was significant enough to record an audit adjustment, but we did want to bring to attention that, hey, the financial records had this, what we call an immaterial, uncorrected misstatement. And so we still communicate it, but we didn't think it was material to report. But again, it is something now going forward that your financial statements will include your ASBs within the body of the financial statements.
Okay, so it's not, so it's not something that we need to address with ASBs, with the training, it's just a reporting practice.
Yes, and it's more on the district level for this particular piece. And I think some of that is just getting used to the new reporting standard.
Okay, cool.
And I think in addition to that, Cindy, I think our ASBs have done a lot of work on training and getting in line with the county principles. What will change the most at the sites is the due date to that information to our office and business, and speeding up some of their work that maybe they would do over the summer because it's not in their work calendar and they come back in the fall. We're going to need to require them to probably do a little bit more work in June and July so that we have the data to close the books with all of their deposits and all of their financial data. They're used to having time when they get back after summer break to kind of get caught up, and the auditors come in November. We're going to now have that because we'll have an August deadline now to report their financial statements in the books. Okay, so that's where some of that timing is with Bob just getting them used to also accelerated due dates.
Okay, cool. Just check and make sure, because I know they'll get all that picnic training again, and I was like, what?
And they're doing a really good job. We're seeing a fraction of the money we used to.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, cool.
Okay. Any other questions? And then I will ask, did you want me to also present the bond report tonight, or is that, am I pausing for a minute, or should I?
No, you can go ahead.
Okay. Okay, so then in addition to the district's report, we also have the Measure W report. Oops. Can we all see?
Yes.
Okay, good. There we go. Now, the Measure W report is a twofold report. The purpose of this one is, and it's doing something funny on me right now. I'm going to stop sharing and reshare because it's blank. Sorry about that. Just give me 1 second. Technology, we've got to love it, right? Okay. I apologize. It's giving me an error. Give me 1 second. I apologize. I'll get it. I will get it. My computer is deciding not to cooperate. It's saying it's 6:45.
No worries, take your time.
Alrighty. I'm going to just start talking while it's getting pulled up. So, and maybe after everything I say, you may or may not need to have me share my screen. So with the bond report for Measure W, as I was saying, the goal of the bond report is twofold. One, it is still a financial audit. So similar to the district's audit, we have an opinion that we're going to provide you on the financial statements. Then the other part of it, which is really probably the bigger piece, is the performance piece. And that's the piece that our goal is to provide you with some assurances that the monies in the bond fund are being spent specifically on bond projects and as approved by the voters. So as it relates to the financial report, it is an unmodified opinion on your bond fund, your Measure W, meaning that the financial statements of the bond fund are materially stated based on our audit. And then it also includes the report on internal controls similar to the district's report as well, which again, if we had significant deficiencies or material weaknesses, we would want to report those to you. And in both in the bond report as well as the district report, no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies to report on the internal controls for that. So then when we get to the performance audit, we are looking specifically expenditures and compliance, as I mentioned. Now, the way we go about that is a little bit twofold. We first look at all of the different activity that's going on in the bond fund. How many projects do you have? What are the dollar amounts of things going on? What types of routine transactions are there? We select samples based on judgment. It's really easy for us to test quite a bit in the bond fund because expenditures are generally larger in nature. And so with that testing, we are able to provide your report that does say that there was no non-compliance noted. So we didn't have any exceptions to compliance with the Measure W expenditures. So let's see if my computer will cooperate with me and allow me to open that up now. I was trying to restart the folder that stores the report, it crashed on my network. So that's what I'm dealing with. Luckily, I haven't been kicked off of the Zoom yet, but my network drive crashed. It's still taking a little bit of time. So if anybody, hopefully you have the report in front of you. So if anybody does have any specific questions, I probably can speak to those. And then the letter as well that's provided on that, the letter to governance regarding the audit. In both cases, the letter that you referred to earlier, also talks to some of the topics of, did we have disagreements with management? Did we have difficulties in completing the audit? And so those are things that we just want to make sure that we're communicating with you. We're happy to report that we didn't have disagreements with management or difficulties in the audit. But if we did, we definitely would want to share that information with you. So both of those letters are attached to your reports as well. Okay, so any questions on that?
I'm not seeing any questions.
I apologize for the technical glitch there.
That's all right. We had access to it ourselves.
Great. That's it for me then.
Well, we appreciate your time. Thank you. And obviously good reports are good to hear.
Great. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
10.2 budget and enrollment report. Catherine, Chief Business Official. So thank you very much. It's really, we have a really positive relationship with our audit team. Being a prior auditor myself, I understand what you're going through. I know the importance it is for us to be as transparent, open, and really they're here for us, even though they're an independent auditor and need to do their job. They are here for us, and I appreciate it. How professional they work with. So it's a good team. So I wanted to just real quickly talk about our budget and enrollment. In your board folder, you have our monthly enrollment and ABA graphs. So this time of the year, I give a very brief budget and enrollment report because we have just closed the books, presented the audit. We had the first interim in December, and we're starting off now working on second interim. So we'll give more detailed PowerPoint presentation in March when we present
the second interim financial report. But our current enrollment, 1,878 students. That is a 10 student increase from the prior month. That was mainly there was some plus and minus one or two students across the district, but that was mainly at BOE where we've seen an increase. And it is very typical that we see an increase or a decrease after the winter break. It is a time where we see parents move. Speaking from experience, I moved up here during the winter break, so I didn't have a fresh second semester when I started at RIM. So we typically see an increase or a decrease slightly in this month as well. We're running at 89.77% ADA enrollment ratio. That is how we adjusted our budget in the first interim we presented in December. And our ADs at 2,583.54. So that is hard to see that RIM is at that 2,500 ADA mark, especially when we were at 6,000, 20, 25 years ago. So to see it actually 2,500 ADA has kind of been a number that seems so far in the future, and it's kind of here. But we do think that the 21-22 school year is an anomaly, that we are actually projecting a higher ADA baseline enrollment next year. And it's every district in California is seeing that. That's why we had some good news in the governor's budget to look at not only declining enrollment, but then declining ADA, because then it's really kind of a double whammy on districts. Not only are they declining in students, but then their attendance rates are down. So it's not alone in that kind of tough spot for districts to be in right now. Our Strive for 95 campaign, CEG, is the leader once again of our in-person programs with 92.73. So they're holding their own with RIM Virtual Academy at 97.61. And we would expect RIM Virtual to have a high, they're at, a high to nearly perfect ADA percentile. Okay, so just a little bit to touch on, many of you have mentioned the governor's budget. We'll be at a conference tomorrow together virtually. And we started really gathering information last week. There's podcasts. Saturday Night County Superintendents of Schools had a presentation today from Capital Advisors. I downloaded a copy of that and I put it in I know some of you were on that as well and have the document yourself, but I did put that in your board so you would have it. And I'll be going to another meeting next week even. So we'll start unpacking all that data, how it pertains to RIM, what is the impact with the increased COLA for next year. The COLA for this year hasn't been increased, but going into next year, we will kind of start crunching those numbers. We'll use the governor's January budget to build our second interim financial report, and that will be the basis going forward. I think that just in a brief discussion today, there's good news in his proposal, and there's also a lot of things that were left out of his budget, and I think it's more compelling what he didn't put in his budget than what he did. Because there definitely is a very, very high amount of one-time categorical type programs with restricted dollars. And seems to be kind of a feverish appetite is what I liked the wording that some people were using yesterday for going back to categoricals. And we're really losing the local control piece. And so, the one good news I think is that 3-year rolling average does not appear to have there's not a trailer bill out for it yet, but doesn't appear to have a sunset date. So we can count on that moving forward for declining enrollment districts like ours. That would be a positive, but it's still, and regardless of the COLA, it's still an increase in funding on lower numbers. So the enrollment and the ADA is still something that I think RIM's going to have to really be aware of
and work hard to address that financial impact. Just double check. I made making a lot of notes because there was quite a bit of details, and we'll be unpacking that, but mostly on the categorical side. Do you have any questions on enrollment or attendance? Okay, I wanted to touch base a little bit on where we're at with the California Voters' Rights Act and some areas that we need to act on to stay in compliance. We last fall, we contracted with Cooperative Strategies to look at the new census data and to give an opinion and analysis of our trustee areas as it relates to the new census. And then the census was late getting published. So all districts and the vendors that they have chosen to work on these studies were really rushing between October and today. You have very draft reports in your board documents. We are waiting for some additional maps that we will get to you. And then once we get the final map, we will make those public and we will post on our website the options for redistricting. Right now, they're comparing the different proposed and current voting areas with your physical addresses to see what the impact would be for each actual trustee, knowing that elections are coming up, and what does that mean? If we had growth over our district and overall from census to census, but one of the things they're going to get for us is a detail on what age bracket that growth came in, because those of us who live up here and work up here and see it, we're not really seeing the mountain dust that's seen except on weekends. So I have a very lively neighborhood of second homeowners who are dear friends of mine, that it's very lively on weekends and only a couple of us full-time residents during the week. So they're going to help us just so we could understand the data a little bit more, because they're also doing our attendance study. And I shared this in Friday before. We are running a little bit behind on these studies. They have some turnover. It's not just education that's suffering with staff shortages and problems in the workplace. And so they had some reorganization in their company. And so we had to get reacquainted with a new partner involved. And so we're going to meet in February to look at the attendance data. And then they're also working on our developer justification study. So we'll kind of wrap up the 3 projects that they're working for. The voter, the trustee area is the one with the statutory due date with February 28th. So it doesn't look like we need a special board meeting based on some attorney instructions that were in the email, that it's not as formal as the process was before. So putting the maps on our website for public viewing, we can have the hearing and the adoption on the same meeting. So we can keep the meeting February 17th and don't have to add a special board meeting unless, of course, you want to add another meeting to your license.
Okay, so but basically I was on a meeting with them today, and it's just so that in really simplistic terms that you understand what has to happen. After the newest census data, the trustee areas have to have about the same number of people in them. They currently do not. And there's a discrepancy in one of the areas to another area almost by about 700 people. So they have to make those in compliance. So the areas, I'm just going to throw out a number, are around 6,000 people each. So, so that's why there's going to be an adjustment to the maps. It will be slight. We don't think that it will impact the current trustee areas because you all live so very far apart. But we need to balance that number. So that's a very simplistic way of having everyone understand what's happening. Every district is doing this because of the data. So because of the census. So we have to do this to be compliant. And they did find that there was a shift in population. So we have to make those trustee areas in compliance and more equal.
And they're seeing that this, I think the thought, pre-COVID thought was, well, there's not going to be a lot of shifts in the nation. Well, they saw unprecedented shifts in California and ins and outs, and they're nationwide, so they have an office and even in other states. So they did see a higher shift, and so the partner we spoke with today even mentioned that, you know, plan on every 10 years going through this process, and if you have a new map, you have a new map, that it's not going to be, you know, it's not controversial, no anything wrong. It's just adjusting your boundaries by your new populations. And reviewing our data also can give us justification that we're not discriminating with any one demographic group.
And they say about 20% of districts would have to do a boundary change.
Yes. And I think just one thing, because we did do boundary maps 2 years ago, I believe, is that it is totally appropriate to consider current trustees' boundaries, and that's part of the consideration when you're doing it. I thought that was interesting at the time, and just want to highlight that that's a normal part of the process. Yes.
Jenny, point of clarification, the documents that we have, the maps actually haven't changed. Even though the scenarios change within them for the numbers, the view is exactly the same.
Okay, I'll have to look at that. They go by census block, so I'll have to double check with them that the person who presented to Michelle and I today wasn't the demographer that actually built the maps. So we can go ahead and check that out too.
You can see how the numbers change in the scenarios. And do we have to do anything to try to see that the various ethnic groups? Because there was some talk about this in state issues, that you have to make sure that you're balancing ethnic or supervisor districts. They have to make sure that there's certain ethnicities somewhat balanced out. Do we have to do any of that?
We had that question too, and we talked about now, you know, do every trustee area has to have the same demographic makeup by percentage? And the answer really is yes or no. You can't, you need to take that into consideration, but then again, you don't want to concentrate certain ethnic groups all in one area, because then there wouldn't be voting representation in the other areas. But at the same time, you don't want to dilute it so much where a certain group couldn't get their candidate to win an election. And then there's some conflict between the state law and the federal law against, on discrimination. So you're really balancing, if you can come away with, this is a fair map, we did our due diligence, and we believe groups can get their candidate elected, then, we would be able to have that defense in a lawsuit. He did say you don't want to necessarily go with the lowest variance or a lowest number, because that might not be a positive, but in every community, every district will have a little bit of a tweak for that, so with us, our ethnic groups are really naturally spread evenly. So there wasn't an area that we could say this trustee boundary is only Cedar Glen and the Arrowhead, where 90% of one ethnic group is living. It's really spread evenly, naturally anyway.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Jenny?
Let me get unmuted. No, I'm not muted. Just looking at the maps, comparing the two, it seems like there's only changing boundaries between District 1 and District 2, or Area 1 and Area 2, or is there going to be any changes in 3, 4, and 5?
It's all a matter of balancing those numbers.
Right.
Those were the areas that had
Largest change.
Population. So we have to balance the numbers to be more equal. So right now, the only other scenario that we've asked them to look at is that that east corner of the map. Nobody lives there, it's national forest. So can we make that just look a little more representative of areas versus cutting that in half when there's no impact of population. So that's the other scenarios that they're working on, because the blue and pink delineation is odd.
Yeah, and I think too, it's fascinating too to learn something new, even though it's maps and numbers. And it's also going that the census changed their census blocks, and they combined census blocks. So they had to then work within, they don't want to make a line across of a street in a neighborhood. So, but then maybe, that census block was combined. And so they had some work on there in our geographic layout to look at the combination now of less census blocks and how that impacted population. They were able to do it, but it was a kind of one layer with our district it wasn't pretty little lines, and square city blocks.
By the way, Jordan did find slight variation in the yellow, just the area one. So there's a little up there on the streets, it looks like.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
10.3, student learning and achievement, single plan for student achievement, SPSA. Heather Dominguez, this has been tabled to the next meeting due to the illness of those needing to report. 7, direction, review/revise governance handbook, board of trustees. Yes, it is. It is in our thing. If anybody would like to start on it or have comments about the reviews or revisions to it, feel free.
I didn't see any necessary changes.
I agree with Jordan, and I didn't see anything that needed to be revised.
Same here, and I think it's just really helpful to do this annual looking over. It's kind of like a good reminder, but yeah, no, I don't suggest any changes.
Legislative update report, trustee Carter.
So since everybody's going to go to the budget workshop tomorrow, in Sandouts, we didn't really do a lot of bill talking because the bills are in process right now. Next month, we'll get an inundation of bills and review and take positions on the bill. So there'll be a lengthy bill. We really talked about the budget. Kevin Gordon from Board of Advisors went over it, talking about what's in it, what's not in it, which is more important than anything. There is an increase in 98 of $8.2 billion. However, when you look at the breakdown of that money, that surplus, what ends up happening is, like Jenny just pointed out, we have a lot of one-time or very restricted monies. These are becoming categorical. I thought we had done away with that, and apparently we are going more and more into categorical spending, which is unfortunate. Like I said before in my report, Sandouts and CSBA want to see the increase in the base funding for school districts so that we have the flexibility to meet the needs of our districts, whether it's to use that for salary or is it to start a new program that has ongoing costs, whatever that is. These dollars are allocated and restricted in what they've been delineated for. There is a COLA of 5.33% that is across all programs and services. Want to point out again, none for transportation. We again don't have transportation COLA, which is a big deal. In our conversation with Senator Leyva in our meeting several months ago, she brought that up, that transportation needs to be addressed. So hopefully, she stated that was a goal for this year. So hoping, and we're going to keep reminding her that this is one of our legislative talking points. It's on our platform. We need to address transportation. Some of the highlights I thought it was interesting that $2.3 billion over 2 years for school facilities, but there was no bond attached to it. So you end up having all these school districts that didn't make Prop 51 money, and there's going to be districts waiting again. And there's no money for TK facilities, and he's expanding TK to all four-year-olds, rebranching Prop 98 to consider the whole TK, but there's going to be school districts that have to do TK and don't have the facilities, and they don't have the money, and they haven't been able to press a bond to be able to update their facilities. So that's going to be an interesting problem. $500 million for special ed ongoing, which is a good thing. However, they're amending the formula to calculate the base funding at the LEA level rather than the SELPA level. And why this is an issue and what SELPA pointed out in the meeting is they rely on the ability to take that money and be able to look at all districts and be able to see what kind of wraparound services they can provide. But if the funding is done this way, that's not going to happen. They're going to be restricted on what really they can be able to accomplish. And Heather Dominguez is going to love that. Special education, there's not going to be an addendum attached to the LCAP to support inclusive planning and cohesion to link special education with general education. So I'm like, wow, Heather gets new template, new addendum. Let's just keep it going. The other thing that I thought was interesting, Jenny mentioned the declining enrollment, or how it's going to be calculated to consider the greater of a school district's current year, prior year, or the average of the 3 prior years, which is a good thing. He's putting more money into the expanded learning opportunity grant. The thing that I found interesting, which we had discussion on, is we already have staffing shortages. We already have issues with trying to do summer school, trying to do those extended learning opportunities. We don't have the staffing. Now the wording in here indicates, yeah, you can go beyond what you traditionally have, like teacher in the classroom, to create partnerships with nonprofits, boys and girls, Y, museums, it's all those things. But the fact remains is you're putting money into something to expand learning opportunities, but we're having staffing shortages. Is anybody including the governor into this stuff? I mean, really? So that was an interesting discussion, because another district, and we talked about how rural districts and districts that are rural like ours or semi-isolated like ours, we don't have the same opportunities to create partnerships that like San Diego Unified, San Bernardino City Unified has. So for us to be able to, we want to partner with the San Diego Zoo, well, that's not going to happen, unless we put our kids into, a 3-week camp prep or something in the zoo. So when it's all good in theory. You can just partner up and you can do all these amazing things beyond the traditional classroom. It's not taking into account the rural districts, the isolated districts. So Karen Gray made that point. She's from Silver Valley near Barstow. She was like, this doesn't do us any good. We're just too isolated for this. The other things are more money for universal meals. He wants to put money into early literacy. He also wants to put, this is a huge amount, $2 billion over 4 years for STEM and dual enrollment. And the interesting part, again, dual enrollment, when you have isolated districts and there's no college, that it's hard to get those partnerships with our kids in dual enrollment programs, maybe concurrent enrollment like we have going on right now, but it's just put out there like, this is an easy thing to do. No, it's not easy for every single school district. So that was again, while we appreciate the surplus money being put towards education, it's not put in such a way that's really doing the best for our kids. It's not increasing the base money. It's not giving any relief to PERS and STRS, nothing on pensions in this budget. Again, like I said, nothing to help TK facilities, even though we're supposed to do all 4-year-olds. And of course, transportation, nothing on transportation. Although there's money to buy green buses, which includes your charging stations. But like another school district in the meeting said, well, that's great. They're super pretty to look at and we can use them for like only these certain things. But we have our district is very large in its transportation area and it won't even get across the district in one charge. So they do very short 20-minute things and then they look at them. And so again, good intentions, but in reality, it's going, a lot of districts are not going to be able to take advantage of that money. So put it in the base, and let us use it to what benefits our district. So that's the main takeaway that you can get tomorrow, I think, from our lovely John Gray. He's my favorite. All right, so that's it. Like I said, I get to keep on with Sandax as legislative chair for the executive committee. So I'm really, really excited because I had turned out in my one position on Sandax. So I get to keep going. I'm really happy.
Thank you for your work on that, Cindy, and representing our district. Any questions for Cindy before we move on?
I didn't go over the federal advocacy update because it's in your folder. It's yada, yada, yada. Just read it.
Done. 11.0 action calendar. 11.1 superintendent approval of the declaration and finding regarding the need for temporary staffing flexibility pursuant to Executive Order N-03-22 fiscal impact none.
So moved.
Second.
Cindy is the first, Bill is the second. Any discussion? Calling for the vote?
Aye.
Because we have someone virtually, we probably need to do votes by name. Roll call for votes. Did you hear me? Okay, so calling for the vote.
Trustee Area 1, aye.
Trustee Area 2, aye.
Cindy Gardner, trustee area 3, aye.
Natalie Linden, trustee area 4, aye.
Gordon Zardi, trustee area 5, aye.
Motion passes unanimously. 11.2 personnel services, approval of the personnel page, fiscal impact budgeted.
So moved.
Cindy?
Second.
Second, Bill. Any discussion? Seeing none, calling for the vote.
Bill Mellinger, trustee Area 1, aye.
Dana Redland, trustee Area 2, aye.
Cindy Gardner, trustee area 3, aye.
Natalie Linden, trustee area 4, aye.
Gordon Zardi, trustee area 5, aye.
Motion passes unanimously. 11.3 personnel services. Approval of the memorandum of understanding MOU between Northern Rural Unified School District and Rim Teachers Association, RTA, to collectively agree to a change to the 2021-2022 school calendar to mitigate the COVID-19's current surge. Can I get a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Jordan
Second.
and Bill? Any discussion? Calling for the vote?
Bill Mellinger, trustee Area 1, aye.
Dana Redland, trustee Area 2, aye.
Cindy Gardner, trustee area 3, aye.
Natalie Lindemann, trustee area 4, nay.
Gordon Zardi, trustee area 5, aye.
The vote was 4-1 and it passes. Motion's approved. 11.4 education services, approval of the addendums to the single plan for student achievement for Mary Putnam Hink Intermediate School and Mountain High School. Fiscal impact, not motion.
So moved.
Cindy?
Second.
Second is Bill. Any discussion? Seeing none, calling for the vote.
Bill Mellinger, trustee area 1, aye.
Sorry. Dana Ridlin, trustee area 2, aye.
Cindy Gardner, trustee area 3, aye. Natalie Linder, trustee area 4, aye.
Jordan Zarate, trustee area 5, aye.
Motion passes unanimously. 11.5, business services, approval of resolution number 21-22-06 regarding accounting of development fees for the 2020-2021 fiscal year. Fiscal impact, none. Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Jordan was first, Bill was second. Any discussion? Seeing none, calling for the vote.
Bill Mellinger, trustee area 1, aye.
Dana Ridlin, trustee area 2, aye.
Cindy Gardner, trustee area 3, aye. Natalie Linder, trustee area 4, aye.
Jordan Zarate, trustee area 5, aye.
Motion passes unanimously. 11.6, business services, approval of resolution number 21-22-07, which allows the district to declare real property known as Grandview Elementary School located at 180 Grandview Road, Lake Arrowhead, California, 92352. Assessor's parcel number APN 0334-461-15-0000. Fiscal impact, none. We have a motion? So moved. Cindy, second.
Second.
Bill? Any discussion? My kids went to that school. Sad, tear.
Okay, here, move forward with this.
I know, not saying that. All right, calling for the vote.
Bill Mellinger, trustee area 1, aye.
Dana Ridlin, trustee area 2, aye.
Cindy Gardner, trustee area 3, aye. Natalie Linder, trustee area 4, aye.
Jordan Zarate, trustee area 5, aye.
Motion passes unanimously. 11.7, business services, approval of update authorized signature listing with San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools for board members. Fiscal impact, none.
So moved.
Second, Bill first, Cindy second. Any discussion?
This is just routinely transitioning who's signing it, the record, Madam President and board clerk, right?
Correct. Calling for the vote.
Bill Mellinger, trustee area 1, aye.
Dana Ridlin, trustee area 2, aye.
Cindy Gardner, trustee area 3, aye. Natalie Linder, trustee area 4, aye.
Jordan Zarate, trustee area 5, aye.
Motion passes unanimously. 11.8, business services, approval of update authorized signature listing with San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools for administration. Fiscal impact, none. So moved. Cindy with first,
Second.
Bill with the second. Any discussion? Same thing, but for administration. Calling for the vote.
Bill Mellinger, trustee area 1, aye.
Dana Ridlin, trustee area 2, aye.
Oh, Cindy Gardner, trustee area 3, ding dong, aye. Natalie Linder, trustee area 4, aye.
Jordan Zarate, trustee area 5, aye.
Motion passes unanimously. 12.0, consent calendar items pulled for separate vote and discussion to be taken into consideration during agenda item 12.0. Anybody like anything removed? All right. May I get a motion for 12.1, 12.2, 12.3, 12.4, 12.5, 12.6, 12.7, 12.8, 12.9, and 12.10?
So moved.
Second. Was that Bill? Bill and then Cindy. Any discussion? Calling for the vote.
Bill Mellinger, trustee area 1, aye.
Dana Ridlin, trustee area 2, aye.
Cindy Gardner, trustee area 3, aye. Natalie Linder, trustee area 4, aye.
Jordan Zarate, trustee area 5, aye.
Motion passes unanimously. 14.0 governance team future agenda items planning. 14.1 time allotted for the Board of Trustees to request agenda items for future meetings. Seeing no discussion, I will move on. 15.0 future meeting dates. Regular board meeting, February 17th, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. Location to be determined. Regular board meeting, March 10th, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. Location to be determined. The to be determined is whether we will have it on site or virtual, depending on what's going on with COVID at the time. Per California state mandate, masks are required to be worn properly by fully covering the nose and mouth on all K-12 campuses while indoors. 16.0 recess to closed session if necessary. It is not necessary. 17.0 adjournment. Any motion?
So moved.
Bill and Sue, a second? Just assume to assume. Okay, I'll second. And any discussion? Calling for the vote.
Bill Mellinger, trustee area 1. Aye.
Anna Ridland, trustee area 2, aye.
Trustee area 3, aye. That was so exciting. That we in trustee area 4, aye.
George Zarate, trustee area 5, aye.
Motion passes unanimously. The meeting was adjourned.